small welcome. So my name is Ricardo Lima, and I'm the president of Gymnastics for All Committee from the European Gymnastics. And it's a pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar about gymnastics and movement for elderly people. This is a topic with huge importance, not just for individuals, but for our entire society. Ensuring the high quality of life for older adults becomes more and more crucial than ever. It's incredible and it's very fortunate to have with us today three experts in this field who will share their valuable perspectives and knowledge. And I would to extend my warm thank you to Patrick, to Louise, and Nicole for their time. And in the name of the European Gymnastics, a big thank you. And to finish, I would just like to express a huge thank to all of the participants for taking their time to join us today. Your presence here demonstrates that it's a clear interest subject and crucial. And so it's good to make these discussions and presentations. So now I will pass the word to my colleague Lasse, that will give you more and more information about the webinar. Lasse, the floor is yours.
Well, yes. So I don't have anything much more to say than thank you, Ricardo. Elderly activity for elderly people is getting more and more observed and more important, and also we in the committee are taking this seriously and working for elderly people as a main topic the last couple of years and also forward. So we are also going to work on this topic for our educational long weekend later this year. So without further ado, Patrick, Louise, and Nicole, are you ready?
I hope so.
Finally. So I'm going to mute myself now and be my guests. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Lasse and Ricardo. Well, first of all, welcome everybody. It's a real pleasure to be speaking to you all today. And I'm here, as Ricardo and Lasse said, with my colleagues from our charity, the British Gymnastics Foundation, both Louise and Nicole. And we're here to talk to you really about helping older people to live well, not just live longer, but live well, live really well and really connect in society. So I'm here to tell you about Love to Move. Now, this program over the last 10 years, it's been delivering all across the UK and some countries beyond. And we've been delivering this to people living with dementia, but also other forms of cognitive impairment. And so over the next 50 minutes, I'll tell you about how this program has been transforming the lives of older people. But we really want to share our experiences with you and help you understand, what we've done to understand what works well, what doesn't work so well, and how we've learned and adapted from this. So first of all, we'll take you through the background and science of the program, and then we'll look into the research and the impacts of the program, really who the program is for and the benefits of the program, and where it can be delivered. And then Nicole later on in the webinar will do a short practical exercise with everybody. So it will be really good to do a short practical where everybody can get involved, and please do get involved so you can experience some of the movement patterns within our program. And then we want to tell you about the education program for Love to Move, and hopefully that leads us in very nicely that if there are any questions from anybody in this webinar, please put the questions in the chat and we will get to the questions right at the end. But firstly, first of all, what is Love to Move? Well, it's a seated exercise program but it's gymnastics-based movement, and it's all set to music, and it's really, really fun. And most of all, it's very social and engaging. So it is very, very different though to most exercise programs. And it's different to anything else because it specifically uses specially designed movement patterns which are proven to improve cognitive ability. And we'll tell you a little bit more about that as we go on. But what I want to tell you about first is where this program has come from. So back in 2014, when our charity was first formed, we met with Professor Araki Tatsuo. Now, many of you will know Professor Araki Tatsuo in this picture here. He's a former FIG Gymnastics for All Commission member. And Araki was commissioned by the Japanese government around 15 years ago. And they were trying to deal with the growing number of people who are living much later into life and living longer in Japan. But they weren't necessarily living well and living with dementia. So Araki set about designing a program that would enhance cognitive ability. And so in 2014, we did a study with Araki Tatsuo, and we understood all of the aspects of the program. And what we decided was that we wanted to bring that program to the United Kingdom. And in order to do that, what we needed to do was make sure that the program was culturally adapted. So in Japan, this exercise program, it was done, as you can see in the picture, sometimes with 100 people, sometimes maybe 150 people in a room. And it was all done in a similar way to how exercise is done in the workplace in Japan. In the first 15 minutes of every day, it's very customary in Japan for all of the workforce to do some exercises. And they may be lots and lots of gymnastics-based exercise. What we found was the community aspect and being in a circle and having different music that was culturally kind of appropriate for the Britain was really important. So we adapted the program, making it very humorous, very fun, but above all, helping people to use their voices and helping people to really engage with the music and each other. So 10 years ago, we started with one deliverer. We delivered the program in 2 care homes and 1 community setting. And we embarked upon 2 years of testing the program. Now, we didn't just deliver the program and carry on delivering the same thing. And this is my first really important message. What we did was every single week, we kept a diary of the delivery. Now, that was a diary of what went well, what didn't go so well, but we also kept the diary of feedback from not just the participants, but the participants' loved ones, and also carers and helpers and volunteers in the session. Now, through that feedback over a 2-year period, we continually adapted the program and we made sure that anything that was going wrong, we put right. And most importantly, we listened to the feedback of older people. Now, in the early days, the average age of our Love to Move program was 65 to 80 years old. So this is the age group of who we were working with. And it was really important to us that we listened and made the changes. So the program we talk about now in this session is kind of learning from all of that development over that 2-year period. And then in the last 8 years, we've also developed a training course, and we've gone from that one deliverer back in 2014. We now have 1,200 deliverers all across the UK delivering this program in care homes and community settings. So if we go on to the next slide, what I want to take you through is the basic benefits of Love to Move. Now, the first one really is the social benefits, the social group interaction. It's really, really important that when you deliver a program like this, it's not just about the movement and the exercise. It's actually about how people talk to each other. So making sure that people really come to the sessions early, making sure they have a time to socialize before the session and after the session, that's really important. But what we found with this social interaction is that music is so important. So we've developed playlists, so different music playlists for different participants. So participants that were perhaps growing up in the 1940s and were young children and teenagers in the 1940s, we have a playlist from the 1940s for that group. We also have playlists we've developed for the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s. And what we find is that this is really important in terms of invoking memory and invoking really positive experiences from people's early life, particularly with somebody who is living with dementia. They may not have a recent memory, but they will absolutely engage with the music from their younger life. So the second benefit really of this kind of aspect of getting people using their voices and connecting with each other is it's not just good for the participant themselves, it's really good for the carers or the loved ones. And what we find is there are many, many loved ones who are looking after older people, and they they feel socially isolated, and perhaps they don't have a huge social circle. So it's really important that this activity isn't just for the target audience, it's actually for their family and their carers too, because that's really important time for them to really just either have some downtime or connect with other people who may understand their situation. So in terms of the physical benefits, we have the whole program is seated for the older audience, and the exercises are really there, and they increase strength, flexibility, coordination, and they just generally get people moving better and feeling better. But this key one here is the third bullet point, which is called bilaterally asymmetrical movement patterns. This bilaterally asymmetrical movement patterns, it's threaded throughout the entire program, and that is proven to increase and improve or cognitively enhance people so that they can function better and that they can do activities for daily life far better. Now, one of the early examples that I have is we had a lady who started our program back in 2015. Her name was Hazel, and she was 93 years old. And when we met Hazel, she was really reclusive. She was spending most of her time in the care home in bed, and she wasn't getting up to talk to anybody. She certainly wasn't talking or using her hands. And what happened was we gently got Hazel out of her bed, and over a period of 6 months, Hazel really started to kind of have a love for life again. Hazel started using her hands again. She started using a knife and fork and feeding herself. Um, Really importantly, Hazel started coming to the communal rooms to talk to her friends. And it was really lovely to see the impact of the program, from somebody 6 months previous at 93 years old, not talking and being in bed, to actually joking and playing with her friends and really finding a love of life again. So what we've found over the last 10 years is that people have actually regained functions that they thought they had lost. And this is really, really incredible because it can make people more independent. And we find that once they gain that independence, they want to reach out and do more things and become more social and meet more people. So if we go on to the next slide, I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about bilateral asymmetry. Now, everyone on this call is in gymnastics. I know that. And we all know that gymnastics can transform lives. It doesn't matter how old you are, gymnastics can transform your life. Now, if we think about a warm-up, every coach in the world is probably going to mobilize shoulders, and we're going to circle our arms. Okay, and so when we circle our arms, like I'm doing now, if we do it at the same time on the right hand side of the body and the left hand side of the body, it's bilaterally symmetrical. Now, if I draw a line down the mid body, so the mid body line, and I split my body into the left and right hand side, the right hand side of my brain controls the left hand side of my body, and the left hand side of my brain controls the right hand side of my body. So if we do something bilaterally symmetrical, like an arm mobilization, or even a shoulder roll, so everyone can try this now. If you do a shoulder roll, this is bilaterally symmetrical. And it's only using one side of our brain, usually the left-hand side of the brain. So it's a really simple exercise. And that is, it's almost like a cut and paste in the brain. The left-hand side controls everything, and it just transfers to the right side, and we control this action. Now, if we change to something which is bilaterally asymmetrical, now that means doing something that's different on the left-hand side to the right-hand side. And many of you will kind of know this from if we pat our head and we rub our tummy. So if we all try this, we pat our heads and rub our tummy. What we're actually doing now is we're making that bilaterally asymmetrical. In the same way that when we warm up children in the gymnasium, we might do this, and then we will do an alternate arm swing. So we do this. Now, this is really important in the brain because people living with dementia and other forms of cognitive decline, what we know is that their brain cells placate and they die. And so the neurons in the brain no longer work. And we know that we can't regenerate, or we can't bring those those placated neurons back to life, but we can fire up new neurons. And this bilateral asymmetrical movement patterns throughout all of these exercises, this can create new neurons and it can fire up new neurons so that we can utilize new neural pathways to regain functions that we had thought were lost. Now, if I give you an example, we might think that making a cup of tea is fairly simple, and I'll start with a very British example of making tea. There's a lot involved if we break it down. We need to get a cup, we need a spoon, we possibly need a tea bag, we then need to boil the kettle, we need to then pour the water into the kettle, we need milk if we need milk, and we need to stir, we need to take the tea bag out, and that we've made our tea. Now, there are probably about 50 actions that we could break that down into. And that particular function, that particular activity might take 150,000 neurons to complete that activity. Now, somebody that is living with dementia may have lost 1,000 of those neurons they have been placated. So halfway through making that cup of tea, the action stops and they are no longer able to complete that activity. Now, what these bilaterally asymmetrical activities do is they create a new neural pathway so we can circumnavigate that activity, and we can use new neurons to essentially to regain the ability to make a cup of tea. So that's the reason why this is in the program. It's helping older people live better, but also it's helping older people with cognitive decline and cognitive impairment to really kind of have better cognition, better function, and just make sure that they really can function and be more independent. So I'm going to pass over to my colleague Louise now, who will just take us through a bit more of the program.
Thanks, Patrick. So we've been continually measuring the impact of the programme over the last 8 years, so following the pilot. The first piece of research that was done was by Age UK, and they found physical, emotional and cognitive aspects of older people improved. They thought it was especially beneficial to people with mild to advanced dementia. But there are all sorts of people that don't have dementia that have also benefited from the programme. We also worked with the University of Bradford and their Applied Dementia Research Unit to evaluate the programme, actually as we were going through COVID, which was difficult to say the least. And we've also done a social return on investment, which is measuring things like people's well-being, how much reliance they have on medication, sleep patterns, movement, all sorts of things, and it kind of aggregates how much money the health service might be spending on a person and how much that might be reduced by an activity such as this. So in 2023, our social return on investment said that for every £1 we've spent on Love to Move, the return on investment is £29. So if we sort of add that up over the years that we've been developing Love to Move, we're currently on a social return of investment of £51 million, which is quite mind-blowing, really. There are all sorts of different people that are benefiting from Love to Move in the UK, mostly older people, and specifically those living with dementia and Parkinson's. We've done a recent survey in February of this year, and you can see there the majority of participants are over the age of 75. We actually have several participants into their hundreds, and the majority are also female. We're not sure whether that's because females prefer to join in the activity or whether they are just living longer. But overall, we believe that over 24,000 participants have benefited from Love to Move to date. Just some of the quotes that came back from that recent survey from participants themselves were saying they're much better, they feel much better in themselves, both physically and mentally. They feel happier, fitter, and laugh more, which we love because that's the aim of Love to Move. And one lady said it's given me more confidence, particularly with other people outside of her family. We've also been developing Love to Move for young people with learning disabilities and physical disabilities. And we have a much younger playlist that we're trialing with them at the moment. And we're also using things like Makaton instead of using the alphabet. We have a programme also for people with young onset dementia, which is more ambulant. So I know Patrick mentioned that the majority of the programme is seated, and it usually is all seated, but we do have a version for people that have young onset dementia where there is some standing. It's much more physically challenging. And that's going down really well, and we're delivering that on Zoom at the moment, and we're just about to start trialing that with face-to-face groups. We're also looking into whether people with multiple sclerosis can benefit from the programme as well, and we have a group trialling that. So I think Patrick mentioned some of the places it's being delivered in. We have lots going on in care homes. Community settings range from anything from a church hall to a leisure centre, a gymnastics club, and we also have people delivering on hospital wards to try and help with rehabilitation. It's not too successful when actually running inside a gymnastics club. We do have plenty of gymnastics coaches who have done the training, but they're mostly successful when they take it out into the community. And we believe this is because particularly older people are not really that comfortable in a gymnastics club setting. It might not be something they're used to going to. There may be a lot of uneven surfaces. We find that people tend to take part if they go to an environment they're very comfortable with. So I think from a gymnastics club point of view, it's better to start out in the community. So this picture here is in a leisure centre in the same building that South Essex Gym Club runs out of, where Max Whitlock's trained. And this is really successful, but what they do is they have a nearby activity centre for people living with dementia, like a day centre, and they bus them in to the leisure centre, and they age from 38. The lady in the middle dancing is 38 with young onset dementia, and the gentleman with his back to us was, I think, 93 in that picture. And they all come in, and the lady that brings them from a place called Peaceful Place couldn't wait to tell me what a transformation the programme had made on this group. She said that before they started doing Love to Move, they didn't really speak to each other. A lot of them didn't join in many of the activities at the centre, and they all have sort of memory and cognitive issues. But after coming to Love to Move weekly, I think at this point when I visited, they'd been doing it for 6 months. They all came in, they all remembered the names of the instructors, and they all couldn't wait to be there. And the lady from Peaceful Place said it's given them their independence back, it's given them their lives back, because they now take part in all the other activities at the centre they go to as well, and they all socialise with each other, and they never miss a Love to Move session. They're all there when it's time to get on the bus. And in this session, they work with an occupational therapist who also did the training, and she said that she'd noticed a difference in their physical ability and their cognitive ability, and just they were all able to do more than when they first started. So we're going to pass on to Nicole now, who is one of our most experienced Love to Move deliverers, and she's going to tell you a little bit more about setting up sessions and what's worked for her in Liverpool.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the introduction, Louise. So I'm Nicole Hughes, and my role at the British Gymnastics Foundation is to bring the life-changing benefits of the Love to Move programme to older people and those living with neurological conditions. What I found is the best way to bring Love to Move to those communities most in need is to seek out those places already invested in delivering activities for people living with dementia and Parkinson's. So my first community session was St Mary's, based here in Liverpool, and it was set up at the end of 2021. I am very fortunate to still have participants from that first class in 2021 still attending the group, and I'm very pleased to welcome new participants to each session. my most recent new member being 96 years young. All older adults and loved ones are welcome to attend Love to Move. St Mary's was the ideal venue to start Love to Move, as the church has a goal of becoming a dementia-friendly parish. St Mary's Church recognises the importance of understanding how people living with dementia and their carers can become socially isolated from community life, especially as dementia progresses. The church has trained all their staff in dementia awareness and offers lots of activities for the local families and their loved ones living with neurological conditions. St Mary's wanted a more dementia-friendly activity that promoted physical well-being as well as mental well-being to improve physical movement for older people. Love to Move was seen as the perfect fit for the needs of the community. The venue itself is a great place to host Love to Move, as you can see in the picture on screen. It's a light space, accessible for wheelchairs, offers a car park for transport, and of course offers tea and coffee facilities, which are very important for us. The staff at St Mary's have waived the hall hire costs for me hosting the Love to Move sessions, so we can offer the classes for free. So money is not a barrier for any of my participants that want to attend. We offer the classes fortnightly at St Mary's and work in collaboration with another venue. You may have heard it, the famous Strawberry Fields, as mentioned in the Beatles song. Strawberry Fields kindly hosts the Love to Move classes on the alternate weeks, so participants can take part weekly in their Love to Move activity. The way we structure the classes is 45 minutes of refreshments, so participants and carers can communicate and socialise with local members. And then we do 1 hour of the Love to Move class with the support of the local volunteers. After receiving a diagnosis of dementia, participants and their loved ones may feel overwhelmed, great sadness, worry and anxiety. Here in Liverpool, I am very fortunate to have made connections with our National Health Service referral partners. So on confirmation of a diagnosis of dementia, my class details are immediately passed to local family members, and they can use Love to Move as a support tool to keep their loved ones physically and socially active. What I found is after COVID, community classes in particular, there has been an increase in the need within the community venues as loved ones have become very socially isolated during the COVID. And this is where all older people can take part in Love to Move together. Louise, can I have the next slide, please? So my first care home was Stately Care and was recommended to me by our local council. The care home employed staff to deliver activities to the resident, and these staff members were very open-minded to try new activities that would bring positive well-being to their residents. In 2018, Love to Move is a recently new activity to the Liverpool area. A 20-minute taster of the programme was all that was needed for the care home to agree to host the sessions. So I then delivered 3 sessions per week for 2 years between 2018 and 2020, with the support of the staff and loved ones of the residents who like to volunteer their time to come and help. The 3 units were the residential unit, the nursing unit, and the advanced dementia unit. Every single one of these Love to Move classes were delivered with significant adaptations, and I had to use all my experience working with Kim Hall, who designed our programme, to adapt each session to those units. For example, in the residential unit, where cognitive decline is not as prominent, the pace of the movements were faster, and I delivered more contents of the Love to Move programme to keep the group challenged and motivated. Whereas, in contrast, in the advanced dementia unit, I went through less of the programme with them and more focus on the music to stimulate the connection with my residents. I also had to do more hands-on one-to-one support to help guide my participants through the movements as verbal communication started to become more difficult. So Love to Move is especially effective in care homes due to the focus being on the engagement with the residents, and the benefits include increased movement, verbal communication and positive feelings. As Patrick mentioned earlier, memories may be lost due to dementia, but the happiness and laughter from the programme still remains. I'll give you an example. So one of my residents amazed both his staff and his family as he started to walk and talk again. These were functions that were thought to be lost to dementia. His daughter-in-law came to visit the session, and after seeing the programme in action, she credits Love to Move for the improvements in her father-in-law's speech and movement. The daughter-in-law became a regular volunteer. Even when her father-in-law passed away, she still continued to visit to help the other residents. The connections made with family members and their loved ones is why Love to Move is important in care home environments. So I've been delivering Love to Move for nearly 7 years, and over that time, I have gained lots of experience in what I call a person-centered approach to my Love to Move delivery. To be person-centered is to tailor the Love to Move class to each of my participants' physical abilities, their likes and interests. And as a deliverer, I celebrate the smallest of improvements in my participants. This is why I have a passion for delivering the Love to Move program. But the power of Love to Move is in the practical delivery. So I'd like to invite you all to take part in a couple of the movements featured in the Love to Move program, which are a great challenge to your brain and to your coordination. Try the movements with me now, and don't worry if you can't do them. By still trying, you're still activating those neural pathways in your brain. So the first one, we call these fine motor skills. So we're looking to build the strength, dexterity and flexibility in your hands and wrist joints. So for me, can you tap your thumb to each of your fingers? Just take your time. If it's easier, you can look at your fingers. Some people prefer that, or you can have your hands out. Now here's the challenge for you all. Can you do thumb and index finger on one hand, thumb and your little or baby finger on the other hand, and now see if you can do the movements. This may be where you need to look at your fingers to help you. Okay, let's go on to the next one. So here's one of the bilateral asymmetrical patterns that Patrick mentioned earlier. So can you either point or pinch your nose, whichever you find easier? Then the other hand is going to go round towards your ear. And now here's the trick. Can you swap your hands over? That's it. And then swap again. And swap again. Now, if you want to make it slightly harder, can you clap your hands and then go to your nose and ear?
Lass is too good at this.
I was thinking that. Brilliant. And do we have one more? Okay. So this particular exercise is a little bit more challenging. So I'm going to break it down for you first, just to make it a little bit easier. So what we're going to draw first are two triangles that go down, out, and up. We're going to do this to a count of 6 just to make it slightly easier. So we're going to go hands up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Okay. So next thing I want you to do is we're going to draw a line with one hand and then a triangle with the other to make it bilaterally asymmetrical. Now the trick is if you use the 6 count, by the time you finish, your fingers should be at the top. So if they're not, then you've probably gone a little bit wrong somewhere in the pattern. I'll do it nice and slow so you can all follow me. So put your fingers at the top and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Yeah, okay. Try it on the other side, because depending if you're right or left hand dominant, you might find one side easier than the other. Here we go, hands up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Well done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Nicole. I totally messed up that first stick and triangle one. That's very embarrassing, especially if you can see me. Okay, so we're going to just quickly tell you a little bit more about the actual training course for Love to Move deliverers. As Patrick mentioned, we've trained over 1,000 people now in the UK. But we've also trained people across the world because when COVID hit, we put the whole course online. So most of our courses now do run online, and we've trained people as far away as New Zealand, Australia, USA, Qatar, Malaysia, all over the place, and Europe, of course. So the actual course is comprised of e-learning modules. So there's a dementia awareness module and a safeguarding adults at risk module. Everybody has to go through those before they're signed off. We run the course either as a face-to-face 2-day course or a 4 modules of 3.5 hours for the online one, which is also tutor-led, but it's easier accessibility for people all over the place to be online. Following the course, we have mentors. Nicole is one of them, but we have several mentors who are matched up with people when they come to the end of their course and give them online mentoring. So deliverers can ask questions, they can practice bits and get feedback before they feel ready for their final assessment. And that is usually somebody as a fly on the wall doing a Teams or a Zoom meeting into a session with real participants, the people that you would be used to working with. The whole course in the UK, we charge £350 per learner. That includes everything as well as the resources and the music playlists. And at the moment, the course is based on the 1950s playlist. When we first started, we were on the 40s, but everybody's moved on a bit in a decade. I should say, if anybody is interested in finding out more about the training course, or if anybody actually wants to attend the training course, please get in contact, and we'll put the team email address in the chat if it's not already in there. So we also run a license scheme for Love to Move deliverers. It's an annual license of £45 a year. And the people that take their license up receive all the continual professional development that we develop for them. Some of them I've put up there. So we have a module on working with people with really advanced dementia right up to end of life and how you can adapt the programme for them. We have a lady who used to be an Admiral nurse who supports families with people living with dementia. And she does a session on dealing with grief and bereavement, and also on dealing with distress and dementia. And we have a number of different courses and workshops and resources that are available to people that take up the license, including all the other playlists that Patrick mentioned earlier. We're looking at a 1980s and a 1990s playlist now as well, which is starting to make me feel old because the 90s is definitely my decade. And we also have an online support network. So deliverers will come together if they can make it once a quarter online and discuss anything that's worked really well for them, swap ideas, and also talk about any challenges they may have had and help each other with finding solutions for any particular participants that may need that extra support in their sessions. So I think we're going to come out of the slides now and just do a bit of a question and answer session, if I can work out. There we go. Patrick, did you want to say a few words first?
Thank you, Louise. Yeah, I suppose what we really want to do is just make sure that, you know, this gymnastics community is such an incredible community, and gymnastics is such a gift that we need to give to the world. And as Ricardo mentioned earlier on, it's really important for us to look after older people and help people live well. And gymnastics is absolutely the tool to help us do that. Now, we have borrowed this program and have learned from the Japanese program from Professor Araki Tatsuo. We've developed it for a Western society and a culture which I think would translate across all of Europe, and we really want to bring these amazing benefits and help all of you to deliver programs like this, and potentially Love to Move to people living in your country. So if anybody does want to connect with us and ask us any more questions or get involved with Love to Move, I've just put the email address for our team at the British Gymnastics Foundation in the chat. Please do email us, and we'll be happy to give you as much information and involve you. But we just hope you found this really useful. We hope that some of our experiences have given you some thought as to how to make something like this happen, in your countries. But kind of we'll do some questions now. So if anybody has any questions, please do put them in the chat. While you're thinking of your questions and putting them in the chat, I believe Louise and I have some questions just quickly to ask now, and then we'll come to your questions.
So, Patrick, are there things that you tried that didn't work in the early days?
Yes, absolutely. So in our first year, being in those two care homes, um, we and the community session, it was really apparent to us that we couldn't get the older people to engage in the activity without tea and cake. So food and community and something else to socially gather people was so important. Now, the one thing that we did really wrong was we did some sessions that were right around tea time. So people were having, in the middle of our Love to Move sessions, people were having cups of tea poured. And so for one, it was dangerous because they didn't perhaps have one-to-one support of their carer. And so we had to stop tea time in the session. And so we learned that it was really important to make people aware that we will chat now, we will have some fun and socialization, we'll do our session, and then there will be tea and cake afterwards. So that's a big tip from me. I just have a question for Louise, actually. So, Louise, how do you ensure that people are safe to participate?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we do actually have a fit to participate form that we ask all our participants to complete. But we're on, I think, the 8th version of that form because it is very difficult to get a large group of people living with dementia and their carers to complete a form before the first session starts. And email doesn't always work too well with this demographic either. So we have a fit to participate form, but it's been shortened as much as possible, whilst also having key contact details, any key long-term health conditions or impairments that the deliverer needs to know about in order to keep those participants safe during their session. And deliverers keep those forms for their own groups. So Nicole, how important is the music?
Very important. You'll find that some people really come to life in Love to Move with a change of the music. And it's something that I've been able to do here in Liverpool. So, for example, the Beatles are incredibly famous. We tend to finish our sessions here with Here Comes the Sun, because what a positive way to end the Love to Move class.
And have you got an example of adapting the music?
Yes. So here in Liverpool, I did a project with the Chinese Wellbeing Service. And so we had to select music that was culturally appropriate for a Cantonese speaking audience. So that was quite an interesting project because I had a translator doing the main bulk of the talking for me. But the music in particular, you find in China, there's so many different regions. That was quite interesting, sourcing what music was appropriate for that group. So that was a great project. And currently I'm working here with the African Caribbean community, and we're looking again to adapt the music more to culturally their tastes as well. Interesting you say tea and cake, Patrick, because for the African Caribbean community, food is a big thing. They will not come to Love to Move without food. So I think that is a huge win really for us.
Do you want me to take a couple of the questions in the chat?
Sure.
Yeah. The first one I think is saying, do you know how many people are practicing Love to Move in the UK? But please correct me if I haven't read that right. We think that there's probably about 24,000 people who have either are practicing now or they have been over the last few years. But it's very difficult to know exactly because they don't register as members. The participants don't. So we're able to keep track more of the deliverers, and some of them may be delivering to 10 people, but we also know that other deliverers are doing several sessions a week and they may be delivering to up to 100 people. But we think the average is about 20 people per participant. So about 24,000 at the moment. Do you want to take the next one, Patrick?
Yeah, so the next question is, do you have an example of including the Love to Move program in GFA events, or isn't that a goal of this program? It isn't a specific goal of this program. Many of the people that do Love to Move have a small community circle, like they have a small sphere of community life. And so large events or gymnastics for all events might be something that are quite difficult for them to access. But I absolutely think that this could, so doing some form of group activity and group coordinated exercise for older people, it absolutely could form a part of a gymnastics for all event. For example, if you have some festival activities, there's no reason why you can't invite older people to view the festival, to watch the festival, and also become part of the festival. And I think that this is probably, this question hits on why we're all here. Gymnastics isn't just for younger people. It's not just for people who are going to the Olympics or anything. Gymnastics is for everyone. And things like the Gymnastrada are, they encapsulate the beauty of our sports as a festival and a celebration of gymnastics. So if anybody can get older people doing coordinated activity or fun activity like Love to Move in a GFA festival or event type format, I think that's great. I think it really would be great.
I think I can take the next one. It's, do the care homes pay anything for having Love to Move? So many of the care homes in this country have trained their own staff. So they have paid to train their own staff, or they've managed to get a grant or some kind of funding to pay for their staff to be trained. However, some choose not to do that because the care home staff can be quite a transient community. So they'll train somebody one day and then they'll move on to a different job the next day. So some people do pay deliverers to go in and deliver, and that ranges from £45 a session to £70 a session. Some care homes have quite a bit of money for their activity budget and others less so. So it's a real mixture, but some of them do pay. Yeah. I don't think there's any more in the chat.
So there's no more questions. And I think if please, by all means, if anybody thinks of a question that they don't have right now, please do send it to that the team at britishgymnasticsfoundation.org. We can answer your questions after this webinar. But we really hope you've just enjoyed the content, and if you want to engage some more and find out more, please do reach out. So if I pass back to Lasse, and thank you for allowing us to share this program.
So this was really beautiful to listen to. Thank you very much. I have just a question at the end here. How many sessions are developed? Is it like the same session every time, or how do you alternate these? Is it like weekly, monthly, or how many sessions are there?
So the deliverers are trained on a set program, mainly because when they're delivering to people with dementia, the repetition is really, really important. So we like them to sort of pick the actions and activities out of each section of the program and make sure they've got some content from every section, because they all bring different benefits. But then we ask them to sort of try and stick to that. Sometimes they'll do something a bit different around Christmas, or bring in some Christmas songs, or Halloween or Easter, or different sort of events in the year. But those people that are delivering to people without a cognitive disease, they do sometimes change the music a bit more regularly, and maybe choose different fine motor skills each time. And then the participants can go away and practice. But there's quite a lot of content in the program, and so it's a case of choosing different bits from each section if they feel they need to change it up. But we leave that down to the deliverer, because they've all got very different groups of participants. And if it's people with dementia, we ask them to repeat. And we have one song in one of the playlists called the Lambeth Walk. It's a kind of London song, but everybody seems to know it. And if you try and take it out once it's been in, all hell breaks loose, because everybody loves it so much, they don't want to take it out the program.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. So it looks like Ricardo is gone. I'll just give him some seconds to see if he's coming back. And if not, then I'm going to end this. Thank you, all participants, all 43. Thank you 1,000 times, Patrick, Nicole, and Louise, for what you taught us and what you brought us here today. I see there is one more question in the chat. I'll give you some seconds to answer that one, if you would. Then I can say
Patrick, that one's
thank
for you.
again.
Yeah, so the question is, are there in classes you follow during Love to Move program, some people that practiced high level sport when they were young? And if yes, do their answer is better than the one of people never practice sport or high level sports? That's a really good question. So I think this talks to differentiation and adapting activity. So when we have lots of different people with different abilities and different cognitive function, there may be people that are very coordinated and people that are less coordinated. And I think that the beauty of the program is it doesn't matter whether people get the activity right or not. It's what we found in the research is that trying the activity and trying the bilaterally asymmetrical movement patterns, that still creates greater function and greater cognitive reserve in the brain. So yes, of course, we see people more able to do these sticks and triangles than other people, and some people may do this and think what comes next. But the fact that their brain is trying to process these movements is the real important thing. So, as Nicole will very well know, encouragement and kind of laughter and joy is the most important thing, because everybody experiences this program slightly differently, and everybody has a different a different ability. So we just make sure that everybody can get involved, and like Nicole was saying earlier, there is so much in the program that if somebody is perhaps finding something difficult, then we have adaptations where we can help that person out. For example, if we ask somebody to do sticks and triangles and they can't coordinate that movement, what we tend to do is we sit face to face with somebody and we put our hands together. So I can now facilitate somebody doing that movement. And even though I'm facilitating the movement, if you imagine your hands are on my hands, that starts to generate some neural activity and what we call a reciprocal communication, and that's really important. So I hope that's helped answer that question.
I think the last part was are we seeing that people that did high level sport are able to do the actions better? And I'm not sure we've done any research on that, so I'm not sure. I'm sure some of them are, but I think it depends on the action and it depends on the sport, because obviously if they've done gymnastics, they're going to be quite good.
Yeah.
But maybe not so much some of the other sports.
Yeah, the one thing that we do know is as much as music is a very cognitively stimulating medium, when people hear music, they feel like they want to join in. A lot of our earlier deliverers have found that if somebody has an experience of sports, say they play cricket or they like to throw a ball and catch, um, remembering that activity and making sure you incorporate that activity, that sports movement activity, and that memory for that person, that really helps as well. So if somebody has done sports, it can be a very powerful way of engaging them as an older person again.
Okay, I think we could probably be talking the rest of the evening about these and discuss these things. Gymnastics being the godfather of all sports throughout the life, from the young ones to the elderly ones. Doing gymnastics will benefit you through all your life, for sure. And I'm looking forward to seeing the evaluation on if high-level sports athletes are doing this type of work better in the next couple of years or so. Maybe we've done some research about it. So I see Ricardo is away. Again, I will try. Thank you again so much, Patrick, Nicole, Louise. To all of you participants, check out the email, the team at British Gymnastics Foundation.org, not .com. And please, if you missed the email, contact us at the European Gymnastics. We will forward you. And yeah, don't forget the educational long weekend later this year with the same kind of topic. So I think that was it. I will wish you all a pleasant Tuesday evening, and take care and good night.